Well, I'm receiving a lot of questions about how I got the boat and what's the story of the boat on Allée. So I thought I could do a quick kind of recap of how this boat came into my life or how I got the boat. It was back in 2013. I was in south of France. I was finishing my master, and a friend of my parents calls me to say, hey, there is this boat in Berlétan, which is in south of France near to Marseille. This boat, the person is trying to sell her for really cheap because they need the spot, the mooring spot. And he sends me the detail of the boat, the brand, the make, so an Écume de Mer. I start looking up online. All the reviews that I could see on internet was along the line of that's a really good boat, really strong build, really good sailor. So I was like really pumped up when I went to see the boat. Actually, when I got this call, I was in Paris doing some interviews for some job to finance my last year of master. I could not get off my mind of this idea of maybe I could have a boat. Having a boat is always an irrational decision, but at that point I was like in a suit, going to an interview, and could only think about this boat. So finished my interview, dropped my suit at a friend's place, grabbed my bag, and hitchhiked all the way down to Berlétan. At that point, I had no idea what I was doing. Just for the little story, I did not got the job in the job interview. But actually it's good. I would have been working in Paris. I wouldn't have liked it at all, I think. So I arrived in Berlétan, have a look at the boat. I meet the owner, who's like such a character, really nice guy. Start reviewing the boat. We haul out the boat of the water. The boat had been sitting there without being used for 3 years or 4 years. It was full of mussels under, and then started to arrive my dad and my cousin. They helped me to kind of scrap the boat. I was mainly looking at the hull condition, if the hull had damage or lots of osmosis. I look at the engine, that I figure out straight away that it was a really old engine that would never start again. And I had a look also at the sails and if the boat was dry. At that point, the decision of buying the boat was taken. Yeah, sorry, I forgot to film this before and now I'm struggling with the light. But anyway, the boat was okay, but I knew that I would have to invest lots of money and he needed the spot in the marina. So we agreed that I would take the boat for €1. But at that moment I could not find one coin, so I went into the boot of my car and I had a bottle of beer brewed by my friends back in the Pyrenees. And I gave him this as a payment. So if you ran into Manu in Marseille, he will probably tell you about the story about how I bought this boat out of one bottle of beer. I took the engine out and lots of friends showed up for, it was I think 3 or 4 days. They helped me to fix the sails, to give a big clean on the boat, try to fix the most important things on the rigging so I could sail it to the Montpellier area where I was studying at that point. After 4 days, I don't know how we made it, but the boat was back in the water with a clean anti-fouling and kind of all the vital organs of the boat working. The main was up and ready, the furler was fixed and the general wound, and not much electronic. I don't think, no, I had no electronics at all at that point. But the boat could sail, and I was planning to set sail on Tuesday morning to Montpellier. We left with my friend Raphael at maybe 3 in the morning. I had no GPS. I had only one chart, but really bad, so no plotter. I just asked to the locals how to get out of the Berleton, because there is lots of sandbanks. So they basically told me you head towards the airport until you get a transit on your right with the bridge and I don't know what, and then you make 90 degrees and head towards the bridge. I don't know how we did not run aground at that point, but we made it at night through this channel, because the idea was to get on the first opening of the bridges to exit and get into the open water. But we made it through, past the bridge, and then sailed the 60 or 70 miles from Berleton to Port-Camargue, so close to Montpellier, without any problem. Looking back, so many things could have went wrong, but we had the minimal. We had a handheld VHF, and we stayed coastal. Actually, we did not even have a chart. We had this book with the charts of the different harbors, so putting them together over different pages, I had kind of the whole distance to sail. That was really cool. And then started the whole adventure. Owning a boat is lots of money, lots of time, two things that I did not have being a student. But I lived on the boat, did minor fixes, tried to put an engine, bought a second-hand inboard engine that never worked, sailed a lot with my outboard engine, fixed it along this last semester I had of university while living on it. During this period, my cousin helped me so much with all the fixing, and he came sailing with me. Also lots of friends from university. We would go after the course, or maybe sometimes skipping classes to go and sail, or over the weekends, just to live the cruising life nice in the south of France. As soon as I finished my semester, I finished my internship. I remember it was on the 11th of July 2014, and on the 14th I was setting sail towards Corsica. Spent a summer sailing around Corsica with friends.
Juste quand même, je pense qu'il faut immortaliser ça, parce que niveau nombre de personnes.
Et la pertinence, quand la marée sera haute, tu l'as où ta coque?
Ça va les gars?
Working here and there, and also single-handed, and came back in France about in September 2014, something like this. And at that moment, I didn't really knew what to do, and I started applying for jobs in the south of France. So I was starting to have interviews to get a regular job, in Montpellier. I was about to say yes to work in a research center when a friend calls me and tells me, "Look, I need another person for delivery from Egypt to Thailand on a 25 meters catamaran. Can you be in Egypt in 2 days time?" I'm like, hold on, give me half an hour, I'll get back to you. I called the company I was supposed to work with. I'm like, I'm really sorry, is it a problem for you if I turn down the job? They say like, no, we have another candidate. Say, okay, really sorry, bye. And the next day I was flying to Egypt to take a boat to Thailand. That's another story actually, I get back to this. That was a crazy adventure also. Spent months and a half at sea to deliver this boat, worked for a few months in Thailand, and came back to France, still broke, with this idea that I wanted to sail this boat across the Atlantic. I don't know how this idea came. But what I knew is that I needed some money. So I took a 6 months contract working for the UN and flew to Haiti to work. It was June 2015. I was 2 weeks to go back to France with money in my pocket to refit the boat and go for an Atlantic crossing the next season at the end of 2015, when I got a big motorbike accident. Bus ran into me, crushed me and my girlfriend at that time. Hopefully she was fine. My motorbike was half ruined and my foot was also half ruined. I spent 3 months in between wheelchair and surgery, then another 3 months of rehabilitation. And when I was finally able to walk again and kind of operational again, I was again without much money in my pocket, so the whole boating thing was done again. So what I did was pulling the boat out of the water, put it in on the dry somewhere it would not cost me much money, meaning my friend's place in the forest, and went back to work. I took another 1 year contract for the UN, went to Pakistan, worked there for a full year, and after this I finally started the refit. And that's when I started the videos in February 2017. From then on, you know the story of the refit of the boat. That's basically the whole journey of this boat, and how I got the boat and how Onale came into my life. Alright, I really hope you liked this episode. I had so much fun doing it because I had to go through so much old footage and old memories. It was really nice. Stay posted, much more is coming. Remember to subscribe below on the button, click to receive news about my postings. And if you like it, also share it with your friends. Thanks a lot. Helps a lot. Bye.